Hey guys, this is IX with Roll Out Reviews bringing you an SH Figuarts review. This time it is Kamen Rider O's Ta-To-Ba combo. So, we'll set the figure itself off to the side briefly here and take a look at the packaging. And there you go. Now here is the figure itself. I'm really partial to the O's design because it's the first Kamen Rider series that I really invested myself into. I love the concept of the show and especially love the concept of the main rider's suit. So let's jump right in, first by taking a look at the chest section, a very defining feature of the design. It has the hawk up above for the head, the tiger in the center for the arms, and the grasshopper down below for the legs. I love how that whole section is actually molded into place rather than just painted or tampoed on. It looks really sharp. Also reflecting that is the driver with the Taka, Tora, and Bata metals there, molded in translucent plastic. Now, unfortunately, this is removable. That's basically for remold value and no other reason. It has a little notch down below, which means it can't even rotate, but it has a hard time actually staying in, unfortunately. It has a little holster on the side of the belt there, and on this side, the scanner. Now, my only qualm with the paint applications on this figure are on the scanner itself. Don't get me wrong, the paint applications are great. For such a tiny piece, it has some very fine details, but around the edge, the paint application is a little bit shabby. Fortunately, the worst of it is towards the back, so it's not too big of a problem. There's just a peg and port system there, and it plugs on. Some lining detail on the legs, and very similarly on the arms. Not a whole lot going on in the back, but that's just the nature of the Ta-To-Ba design, or the O's design for that matter. Now, the head is really well done. It has the signature SH Figuarts Kamen Rider compound eyes. They look really cool, and here it's no exception. Very nicely done. It also has a little jewel up on the forehead. That detail is not missed. Now, SH Figuarts generally takes a little bit of a stylized approach with their figures, and with this guy, he's a little more streamlined and slim than the actual on-screen suit. But it still looks good. I mean, it doesn't look bad. It looks like O's. It is noticeable. It also does have a shiny gloss finish on the armor parts, when in the show, the whole suit is matte. And I would have liked to see that, not only because it's show accurate, but I just think that would have looked a lot better. This looks almost a little too toy-like. And I know it is a toy, but it's an SH Figuarts, a little more of a high-end figure. So I'd expect something maybe just a little more accurate. Speaking of that toy-like nature, the plastic is very different from any of the other Figuarts I own. It's almost kind of rubbery, a little bit gummy, and I don't know, it's not a bad quality, it just feels weird, and especially if I move this, it's very squeaky. And I don't know. I don't like it as much, but once again, it's not bad. Overall, I think it does look a little bit too perfect. The normal folds and wrinkles that would be in a suit, especially on screen in the show, don't show up here. It's very perfect. And I don't know. Again, that's just sort of a nitpicky thing, but it is there, and it is worth noting. I would have liked it maybe to look a little more like the suit design in the show, but as it is, it doesn't really look like a man in a suit. But overall, I gotta say, as a figure, not comparing it to the show design, I mean, it looks great. Now, Figuarts are known for their dynamic and natural range of articulation, so let's take a look at what this guy can do. His head is on a double joint here, a double ball joint that can go side to side, up and down, and all the way around. Very expressive. Unfortunately, this little neck section has a stripe going down the center, and it likes to displace itself. It's a little bit annoying trying to fiddle it back into place, or in just the right position you want it, but not too big of a deal. The shoulder pads are on a hinge there, and the arm itself is sort of on an internal ball joint in the chest there, so it goes all the way around, forward and back. It's also on a hinge here, so it can go outward that far. It's on a rotation up here, and it bends at the elbow. It is a double joint, but you're only going to get that much out of it. At least it's a bit more than 90 degrees. Now, a very expressive wrist joint on this guy. It goes all the way around on a ball joint and a cut swivel, so that's good. The waist articulation is pretty good, although a little bit limited because of this circular section. He doesn't have too much of an ab crunch, but it goes back pretty far, side to side, and rotates pretty well. Now, from the waist down, things start getting a little bit limited. Granted, the articulation is still pretty good, but we are comparing this to Figuarts of the past, and, well, it starts to fall apart. So Figuarts have this kind of mechanism where they're on a double hinge, and the hip slides down to provide a bit more movement forward and back and outward. But here, it only goes out that far just due to how this section in here is molded. And that's a little bit disappointing. It only goes forward about that far. Again, those squeaky joints. But it goes forward only about that far, like I said. Backward, not very far at all. So, the hip section is relatively disappointing. Once again, it's not bad. We're just comparing this to the Figuarts standard. The knee bends very nicely on a double joint there. And it's got this little bit of armor that kind of sticks out. I don't like the way that looks. It's just sort of pegged on. That tends to fall off sometimes. It's not too big of an issue. I just don't like the way that it looks. Anyway. What's really disappointing, arguably even more disappointing than the hips, are the ankles. Usually SH Figuarts have an incredible range in their ankles, but this guy seems to only be on a ball joint. Maybe there's a hinge in there, but I can't really detect one with all of this armor around it. But it moves all the way around. It only goes this far forward and this far back. Goes side to side just a little bit. It even goes further in the opposite direction, which is weird. I mean, it has the little toe joint, but that only goes so far. So I'm not too impressed with that. It is also worth noting that this is the first, to my knowledge, main rider to have plastic feet. Now, this is a more common thing now. This figure is a few years old, but at the time that this guy came out, that was a big thing because all of the Rider Figuarts before him had die-cast feet, which gave them a really good, well, no pun intended, footing. This guy has a little bit of a harder time standing because of these plastic ones, but it's not too big of a deal. Overall, I mean, you can get some pretty dynamic poses out of him. I mean, he's not immobile. It's just a shame that below the waist, you can't really get too much outside of just basic stances. If you bring his legs out any further than this, you know, you can't really get a flat-footed position. And well, that's a little disappointing. Now let's take a look at the accessory count for this figure. First, it comes with a replacement right hand for holding the scanner. So, we just pop this fist off here and plug this one on. If we can. It's a little bit tricky to get the hands on because you end up sliding this wrist armor off, but there we go. Then we can take the scanner off of the belt and wedge it in his hand. Now, it doesn't hold it all that great, but for display, I guess it does the job. We can bring that down to his belt to scan the core metals, just like that. So, that's pretty effective, I suppose. From there, he comes with a set of holding hands. Now, these actually hold the scanner a lot better. It's just that the fingers don't quite fit in the slot, but it's a much firmer grip. But we'll just be using this hand here. So, pop that one off. Plug this one on, and using this, we can give him his sword weapon, the Metajalabur. And this is a really nicely done weapon. Great paint apps. It definitely, well, looks like it does in the show. It's got some cell metals in there, the little handle which doesn't move, and the little slot there. Even some ridged designs in the blade. So that's kind of cool. But that fits into his hand here pretty well. If I can get it in. If you have it at a certain angle here, it can be a bit loose, but just rotate it into the right position and it should be fine. You can also get the scanner scanning these cell metals on the blade, which is kind of cool. So you can get something like this going on here. It's a nice display, but I usually don't have him like this on my shelf. I generally don't think of Oz as much of a swordsman. So, we'll pull these hands off here. And replace the claws on his arms for some larger flipped out versions, Wolverine style. And those pretty securely slot in place of the folded up ones. I mean, they are rather large, but they did get much bigger once they flipped out in the show, so I don't have any problems there. He also comes with some splayed out hands here, and we'll use those here. So, again, I do think it's a little bit tricky getting the hands on with that wrist armor, but oh well. Doesn't take too long to fix that problem. And there you go. That definitely looks really, really sweet. So in the end, this is a pretty great figure, and I'm definitely glad I have it in my collection. That said, I might be a little bit biased because I absolutely love Oz, and because of that, I love this figure. If you're not so much of a big fan of Oz, it definitely has flaws, and this could be an easy pass, but that is up to you. If you want to complete your Rider collection, I think this is definitely worth that purchase and definitely worth hunting down. So, that is about it, guys, and this is IXRoll@IX, signing off.